Great, let's start. Hey everyone, welcome back to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I'm your host Avik, and today's episode is all about raising the next generation to be happy, successful, and confident. So, we live in an era where children are constantly exposed to social media, bombarded with the information, both true, false, and often disconnected from history, which holds the key to understanding today's world. So, how can parents and educators equip children with the tools to think critically, navigate the social media wisely, and embrace their own potential? So, to help us unpack these crucial topics, I'm honored to welcome Barbara and Mojika today. Welcome to the show, Barbara.
Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to our chat.
Lovely, lovely. So, before we start, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners. Dear listeners, Barbara is a historian, educator, and award winning author. So, with over 40 years of experience in the education as a teacher, principal, and the school district administrator, she has dedicated her career to inspiring young minds through storytelling and history. So, she's the creator of Little Miss History series, using her whimsical character to take young readers on fun filled adventures through the time. So her motto is, if you don't know your history, you don't know what you are talking about. So Barbara believes that history isn't just about the past, it's all about the tool to solve today's problems and shape a better future. So today we'll dive into why history matters, how to develop the critical thinking skills in kids, and the impact of social media on young minds. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the show again.
Thank you.
Lovely, lovely. So, and many people see history as a kind of just memorizing the dates and the events. So, how can parents, I mean, what according to you, I mean, parents and educators make history more engaging and relevant to the children?
Well,
What do you say?
history is certainly a lot more than memorizing dates and events. And certainly that may have been the way history was taught in the past, way back. Today in America, history is largely a neglected part of the curriculum, unfortunately. We have taken the view that performance counts, and in our public school system, the educators are teaching to the test to meet arbitrary standards, which obviously don't work because there is no one size fits all approach to education. We are individuals and we all learn in different ways. So right now we are wrestling with that problem here in the United States. And as a person who spent more than 40 years in education, I have seen the way that system has changed. Going back to why history is important, we have to know where we came from in order to understand what is happening today. And in order to prepare and use that knowledge as a framework to prepare and plan for a better future. That's what I mean by if you don't know your history, you don't know what you're talking about. And as far as the critical thinking piece, history is
Mhm.
one of the best disciplines to look at when you're thinking about critical thinking. So, what is critical thinking? Critical thinking is concerned more with the process of how we get to something than
Mm,
the actual thing. So, critical thinking is searching for the truth, looking for the facts, understanding the reality. Unfortunately, with our ties to social media today, a lot of what we understand as facts or as truth is being manipulated into what is portrayed in the algorithms as opinions. And as
mhm,
our children engage with social media, they play into that algorithm And once it is understood what they are aligning themselves with, they develop this group of friends who reinforces that algorithm. Unfortunately, what is presented is often only one side of the picture, and our kids are not getting to truth. They're getting into a manipulated one side view of what is
Mhm.
actually happening. So, if you are a critical thinker and as a historian, you are trained that way, you first observe and research to learn what the facts are. Then you analyze them and carefully use the primary sources. You go back to the horse's mouth virtually, and you
Mhm.
get the records of what actually happened. And then once you have all of that, you can infer and you can compare with other pieces of information, the other things that are happening, the other people who are involved,
Mm.
why, what are their motives for doing it. And
Mhm.
when we have all of that, we can begin to solve problems.
True.
Where do we get that? Our schools largely are not teaching that. At least here in America, they're not. They're teaching reading, they're teaching math, but
Mm.
we are again dealing with such a diverse population that all of us are learning in different ways, and that one size fits all kind of approach doesn't reach everyone. So what can parents do? We want parents to raise happy, confident, and successful kids. And there's a lot that a parent can do from the very beginning. After all, parents are the first teachers, they are our first mentors. And a parent from
Mm.
very, very early stages, even with toddlers and preschoolers, can start giving them the skills to do that critical thinking. And there are a lot of ways they can do that. They can start asking their kids those open ended questions and presenting them with scenarios that encourage them how to critically think. Let me give a simple example. So if
Mhm.
you're with your child and you're walking around in your community and
Yeah.
you spot something that's interesting, like an old abandoned building, you
Mhm.
can say to the child, "Oh, I wonder what that building was. I wonder who lived there. I wonder what kind of products they may have made. I wonder if they dress the same as we do. I wonder if they went to school like we do. I wonder who their friends were." All just opening up these open-ended kinds of questions. We want to encourage them to ask about the who, the what, the when, the where, and most importantly, the why.
Mm.
All of those kinds of questions get their minds open to critical thinking. And as parents, we can kind of guide them and model that kind of behavior. Uh, we can teach them certain basic values
Mhm.
uh, that will enhance the development of leadership skills later on. We can teach them to respect other people's viewpoints that are different from ours. We can teach them to be honest with themselves and with others. We can teach them to be kind and compassionate to those who may think a bit differently than we do, practice a different religion, uh, have different ideas of in their culture. We can
Mhm.
also teach them to be grateful for what they have and to think about those who have less than we do.
Mm.
Um, we can teach them perseverance, not to give up.
Mm.
When they have a passion or a curiosity about something, that they need to pursue it, and they need to be more concerned about developing their own self-identity and their own individuality in the sense of not that we're going to try to dominate over somebody else, but that we can stand strong for what we believe in, and continue to work hard to make ourselves successful. So those are some basic kind of skills parents can instill in their children at a very early age.
Understood. Understood. So, uh, on this, in today's digital world, in the digital world, kids are exposed to an overwhelming amount of information, some of which isn't always accurate. But um, how can history education help children develop the critical thinking skills?
Well, when they study history, they're looking for
Mhm,
all of those elements. They're looking for the who, they're looking for people who were involved in certain
mhm,
events or in a certain period of time and how those people were interacting with each other. We're looking for what they believed in, but also uh, not only the what each individual believed in, but how that was connected in the broader scheme of things. So how were they communicating with each other? Sometimes they were successful, sometimes they were not successful. How were they connected with each other? And sometimes history involves a lot of chance. Uh, if a certain small event didn't occur or something happened to inflict uh, a change of events, for instance, um, weather can be an unpredictable factor in history and it can sometimes change history. Um, if the connections weren't strong with one another, that may have resulted in a failure. For instance, in military history, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of uh, connecting that had to take place. Sometimes things seem to work and sometimes it didn't. But we can learn from the successes of the past, we can learn from the failures of the past, and then we can compare it to events that are happening today. Now, of course, a lot of the communication has changed, obviously. We're no longer taking weeks to communicate with each other, as may have been the case a couple of hundred years ago. But we have to take what is happening today and we have to use that to improve. That's what I mean by taking uh, the new and integrating that with what we know in order to improve and plan for our new futures. There's so much that technology can do to help us today. There's certainly a lot that technology can do to harm us today. But we have to teach our kids, again, to be able to evaluate. So to observe, to go back to the real truth, to find the real truth, then to analyze what could happen, what could not happen, to and then the above the step above that to infer how we can use that better uh, to improve our situation. And we're at an inflection point right now with AI the way it is. How much are we going to allow technology to control our future, and how can we use it to benefit humanity, but at the same time, how can we control it so that it will not in the future act as a detriment to humanity. So we're a very, important point in that. But again, as I said, if parents start at a very young age giving kids those uh, skills,
Mhm.
uh, they can use it for their own benefit. And parents have to set an example. If they're telling their kids, uh, you can only spend so much time on technology, which parents do need to set certain boundaries, again, depending on a child's age. They
Mhm.
have to be an example themselves. They have to set boundaries for themselves. If the parent is sitting there at the dinner table checking their phone and not communicating with their children, what kind of example are they setting?
Got it. Understood. So, like also confidence, like I was talking about the raising confident. So, confidence plays a kind of huge role in children's success. So, based on your experience, what are the key factors that contribute to raising confident children?
Well, you have to raise them to become independent thinkers. And
Mhm.
again, that goes back somewhat to critical thinking. They have to understand what is the true factual
Mhm.
situation, and they have to know that while fitting in with their peers is important, and of course for tweens and teens, that becomes very, very important as they start to separate more and more from the family and their parents. They have to understand that importance of individuality and self-esteem, that they have to respect their own views as individuals, and they do not have to compromise their views or their safety in order to fit in with the group. Um, they have to have a sense of responsibility at a very young age. So parents need to delegate things like chores to their children at a very young age. There are simple things that you can even have a toddler or a preschooler do to contribute as part of the family. And that later on, that contributing to the family gets translated wider into contributing to being a good member of the community outside the family. Um, if a parent teaches them fairness, they will learn again that there are things in our world that are fair and there are things in our world that are unfair. We're always going to be subjected to a certain amount of unfairness. But if we as individuals strive to be fair, that will go a long way to contributing to our interactions with other members of the community. We have to teach them how to negotiate.
Mhm.
When I talk about leadership, I always remind parents and children that any leader knows how to negotiate, that we're not going to get what we want 100% of the time. And we have to work with each other in order to compromise and come to the best solution. So parents have to teach their kids how to do that. And sometimes parents may, in that process, have to admit that they're wrong and show the child that there always has to be some give and take. So while the child has to respect the parental boundaries and the authority of the parent to some extent, the child also has to know that part of the growing process is
Mhm.
learning from our mistakes. And parents have to show them that sometimes they're wrong and be able to admit to their kids that they might be wrong. Um, they have to teach their kids how to be organized. That's a very important part of leadership and later success. Again, being responsible for their own things, learning how to organize their subjects at school, having enough time for their schoolwork, for hanging out with their friends, for pursuing any passions that they may have outside of school, like sports or music or art, whatever their passion may be. So they have to let them be involved in organizing their own space and time, and uh, not that they're not going to be there to help them if they have a setback, but letting them fail at times, letting them organize how to pick up the pieces and go on from there, and helping them develop uh, a resilience to that. Letting them understand that sometimes we may not succeed, and we can use what we learn from that failure in order to approach things a better way the next time.
Understood. That's really great. Really, really great. So, I mean, it's really an insightful and inspiring conversation, Barbara. I mean, your passion for history and the education is truly contagious, and um, your work is making a real difference in how children learn and grow. So that's very important. So, uh, listeners, like whether you are a parent or a teacher or just someone who wants to see the next generation thrive, I hope today's discussion has given you valuable tools and the perspectives. So, raising happy, successful, and confident kids isn't just about the academics, but it's all about teaching them to think critically, understand their roots, and navigate the modern world with the confidence. So, if you want to learn more about Barbara and her Little Miss History series, then check out the links into the episode description. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, do not forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. So, until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep building a healthy mind and a healthy life. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.